Is roll call? Oh, first point of order is I need a secretary. Do I have a volunteer? Mr. Souza?
I'll do it.
Oh, Mr. Haney, thank you. Can you do roll call?
Mark Norkins.
Here.
Eric Curtin. Absent. Jim Miller.
Here.
Owen Gambrell.
Here.
And Thomas Sylvia.
Here.
And I'm Tom Heaney. Here.
Next order of
Chris
business.
Sousa, sorry.
Here. Next order of business is I need a motion to accept the minutes from the January 15th meeting.
Motion to adopt said minutes for January 15th meeting.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next, Mr. Kane, we have the continuances and withdrawals.
Correct.
Are we going to read all these in?
Why you just call the cases one at a time and then handle them that way? You don't need to read the whole petition.
Just
into
read the
record,
name.
Just the applicant and the location.
Mr. Haney, can you read the first continuance?
The appeal of Tinges Limited Liability Company and Rhode Island Nurseries, Inc., owners Sean Napolitano, applicant by their attorney David P. Martland, Esquire.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Robert M. Silva from the law office of Silva, Thomas, Martland, and Offenberg. Mr. Martland is actually counsel of record for this matter, and he's asked me to appear tonight and request the continuance for a month while we prepare for the hearing.
Okay, so to the February date,
That'll be fine.
and what's that?
For the record, February 26th.
Okay, we're going to move that to February 26th. Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Petition of MRI 5 Ludlow Partnerships, owners by their attorney Jeremiah C. Lynch.
Mr. Secretary, you've got several other items before that.
The
You got
appeal for
Appeal
trademark
of
builders.
trademark builders.
Do you want me to?
Got the wrong one, that's fine.
You have the appeal for trademark builders LLC, applicant by the attorney Russell Jackson.
Yep, got it.
Mr. Jackson?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I respectfully request that that appeal be withdrawn. We filed a notice of withdrawal last week with the zoning officer and copied counsel for the property owner 288 Vaucluse Avenue LLC.
So withdrawn without prejudice?
Actually, the withdrawal is a result of an agreement between the parties, so part of that agreement was it would be withdrawal with prejudice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chris, do we don't need a vote on that, we just withdraw it? Withdrawn with prejudice.
Petition of Old Farms Limited Liability, 736 East Main Road, Middletown, by their attorney, Robert M. Silva.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and for the record, Robert M. Silva, law office of Silva, Thomas, Martland, and Offenberg. I am the attorney of record for a petition of Old Farm LLC, which is a application for a special use permit, and it probably holds the record for the oldest, most continued petition in the history of the community of Middletown. I see by your docket that we originally came on in April of 2012. That's when we appealed the decision of the then solicitor indicating that the board had no jurisdiction to hear the application. We appealed that to Superior Court, and that decision was overturned, and we were allowed to file our petition and continue to have a hearing. Since then, circumstances were such that a lot of discussion took place over the zoning and the possible reorientation of the zoning that applied to that site, which is the 72-acre site on West Main and Browns Lane. The town got about the business of trying to rezone that area with a mixed-use zoning ordinance, so we continued the matter, awaiting an opportunity to determine what the zoning would look like under a mixed-use category. That took many, many, many months and years, actually, but the town did rezone, change the zoning ordinance to allow a mixed-use development there, but as it would be, it doesn't really make sense to us to proceed as an election under the ordinance in that regard. So after a lot of thought and whatnot, we're just simply here tonight to ask that our application, as permitted by the Superior Court to proceed, we just want to withdraw that application in its totality without prejudice. Despite all the continuances, there has never been a hearing before the zoning board.
Okay. Oh, please. Mr. McNally, do we need a vote on that? No? No. Withdrawn without prejudice. Done.
I'll prepare a decision for your signature in that regard, just to complete the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Petition of Harry Harvey III and Wendy Lord Harvey, owners, and Nicholas St. John, applicant, for a special use permit.
Hi, I'm Wendy Lord Harvey, and I've withdrawn my support for this petition. I'm the
Do I
owner.
need to swear her in, Mr. Kane?
No, she's the applicant. She just wants to withdraw the petition.
Okay, withdrawn without prejudice.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Petition of Samuels Realty Company Incorporated, owners, Jason Bazarski, applicant, for a special use permit.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this application was filed as a precautionary measure by the applicant a couple of months ago. They were looking for a determination to determine whether or not they needed a special use permit to be considered a small-scale shopping center. Research has resulted in that it already is a legal, non-conforming small-scale shopping center as it was developed over the years, so they're going to just withdraw that petition without prejudice.
Withdrawn without prejudice.
Petition of MRI 5 Ludlow Partnership owners by their attorney Jeremiah C. Lynch for a variance.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there are 3 petitions in connection with that applicant. 2 variances, one that will ultimately be withdrawn, another variance and a special use permit. They've requested all 3 to be continued to the next regular hearing on
Okay.
February 26th.
Continued all 3 to 2/26.
Amended petition of 47 Valley Road, limited liability owner, Christopher Tunnell, applicant, by their attorney, Russell Jackson, Esquire.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. J. Russell Jackson for the applicant, Christopher Tunna. The next 2 items, the one that was just called and the one next on the agenda, are applications for dimensional variances. They're listed twice because they're 2 separate applications that were filed at different times. As this plan has evolved, and you'll hear some of the information about that, and you'll also hear testimony a little later when the case is heard during a full hearing for the special use permit. Over time, the need for these dimensional variances has become moot based on a change in the site plan. So we'd respectfully request that the applications for dimensional variances be withdrawn.
So both.
Thank you.
Withdrawn without prejudice.
Petition of Atlantic Beach Suites, limited liability company owner, by their attorney, David P. Martland, Esquire, for a variance.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that particular petition was filed in conjunction with a special use permit that you'll be hearing later this evening. During the development plan review process, it was determined that this variance was not required, so the applicant requested that it be withdrawn without prejudice.
Okay. Withdrawn without prejudice.
Petition of Atlantic Beach Suites Limited Liability Company owners by their attorney Sean M. Bouchard Esquire for a special use permit.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that application is for, in addition to an existing hotel use, it's currently pending development plan review approval. So that would need to be continued to the February 26th hearing.
Okay, continued based on the plan review.
Continue to February.
Yes, 2/26.
Petition of Brian and Ann Donovan owners for a variance.
Mr. Chairman, that's a new application for a variance. There was an objector who contacted my office and the owner and said that they were unavailable to attend tonight's meeting but wanted to be heard, so the applicant and the objector have agreed to a continuance to February 26th.
Continued to February 26th.
Petition of On the Pond Limited Liability Company owners Justin Percara, applicant by their attorney Sean M. Bouchard Esquire for a special use permit.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Robert M. Silva of the firm of Silva, Thomas, Martland, and Offenberg. Mr. Bouchard is an associate of mine. He's with the firm, and he's asked that the matter simply be continued for a month. It's going through planning process.
Okay. Continued to 2/26 on both petitions.
Thank you.
Is that for both petitions? No.
Yeah, that's for both.
Okay.
That concludes our continuances and withdrawals. Next order of business is going to be our summary petitions. Summary petitions are those petitions that are minimal in nature. What we're going to do is we're going to read the petition. I'm going to ask if anyone, either on the dais here or in the audience, would like to speak for or against the petition. If there are none, then we're going to vote on it in summary. So, Mr. Heaney, could you read that?
Petition of William and Carol Sheehan, owners, for a variance from section 603, 701, and 803G to allow the construction of a roof over the second floor deck with a rear yard setback of 27.1 feet where 30 feet is required. Said real estate is located at 179 Tuckerman Avenue and further identified as Lot 28 on Tax Assessor's Plat 116 Southeast.
Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak against that petition this evening? Is there anyone on the dais that would like to speak against that petition or hear a full testimony?
I just have one question. How did the lot coverage get reduced as a result? Probably supporting.
Can you repeat that, please? What was the question?
On the drawing A-01, it looks like the proposed lot coverage actually decreases by 1% as a result of the.
I believe what they're showing is what's allowed and what's proposed, or what's existing. Let's take a quick look at this.
So they're increasing the lot coverage 5.6%.
No, it says
They're decreasing it.
decreasing it by 1%. That's why I was confused. 25.6 existing
Oh.
26.5.
Oh, you know, this is the plan that was originally approved by the zoning board back in 2003.
okay, I
And
see.
they're building over the existing footprint, so that's not,
I see.
that's not part of the relief.
Okay.
This was, we allowed them to use an existing plan because they were not increasing the footprint.
Okay, yeah, no further questions.
Seeing that there's no objection to the case going to summary, I'd like to take a vote. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next order of business are our full hearings. Mr. Heaney, could you read the first one?
Petition of Orchard Trust owners and Camille A. Marcello applicant for a special use permit from sections 803A to allow the expansion of a non-conforming use by the addition of a 30-foot by 4-inch times 8 feet, 1-story addition, and a 12-foot by 32 feet, 1-inch deck. The structures existing are non-conforming on 2 lots. Said real estate is located at 28, 30, and 30A Warren Avenue, and further identified as lots 164 and 165 on Tax Assessor's Plat 115 Southeast.
Why don't you read the second one as well?
Petition of Orchard Trust owners Camille A. Marcello applicant for a variance from sections 603, 701, and 803G to allow the construction of a 30-foot by 4-inch times 8 feet, 1-story addition, and a 12-foot by 32 feet, 1-inch deck. The structures existing are non-conforming on 2 lots. Said real estate is located at 28, 30, and 30 Alpha Warren Avenue, and further identified as lots 164 and 165 on Tax Assessor's Plat 115 Southeast.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Camille A. Marcello, 30 Warren Avenue, Middletown.
Okay. Tell us about your project. Ms. Marcello.
My sister-in-law and I own the 3 houses through a trust. And right now, as you know, the house is non-conforming. I did try to get the lots to be combined so I wouldn't have to worry about conforming, but that didn't work out. But I would like to just go out 8 feet on my house, the 30 Warren Avenue, and then put in a deck also. I know the lots are very, you know, I'm right at the lot line as it is.
Right. Have you talked to your neighbors about it? Has anyone expressed concern?
No, nobody's expressed concern. I did, well, Terry Flynn lives next door to me, and she didn't call me. And then the people across the street, they didn't contact me. I did email them. And truthfully, a lot of the people are my relatives right in
Right.
that area, so nobody has said anything.
Yeah, and it looks like you're building your deck away from the, you're not increasing into the setbacks. but
No.
You're building away from it. So it's the nature of where you live and the size of the lots, I think.
Yeah, it is. This property was bought back in the 20s, so it's just, you know, it's the way it is.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll see if anyone else wants to speak.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. You can sit down, Mrs.
Okay.
Marcello. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the application?
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
And this is for the special use permit. We have to do that one first, guys. Discussion?
I drove by the property today. I mean, she's got a fairly significant amount of open space on that property compared to her neighbors. And as I go through the special use permit criteria, the 5 criteria, and it seems to meet all 5.
Any other discussion?
I just have a question about the drawing. So is this dashed line denoting a?
There's 2 pieces of
That's the lot.
They're owned by a
So,
trust.
right. And so my point is, if they were combined as one
There'd be no issue.
lot, you wouldn't have to.
Exactly.
And they are owned in the same trust.
They're under the
And
same
so,
trust.
for that reasoning, I think that this conforms with the criteria necessary.
Exactly right. Thank you, Mr. Noykins. Any other discussion? Can I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Can I have a motion on the variance now?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made and approved. Discussion?
Yeah, I mean, it's same as the approval of the special use permit. It satisfies A through F on the conditions for a variance.
Yeah, I too looked at the property. I think it's unique in that both lots, as Mr. Noykins pointed out, are owned by the same trust. If they were able to merge them into a single lot, they wouldn't have to be here for approval. So I'm going to support the petition for that reason. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mrs. Marcello.
Petition of Breakwater Property Group, limited liability owners, Jesse Steben, applicant for a special use permit to place a 150 square foot shed on the property resulting in the expansion of the previously granted special use permit as a mixed commercial and residential use. Said real estate is located on 88 Valley Road and further identified as Lot 116 on Tax Assessor's Plat 113.
Are you Mr. Stebbin?
Yes.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Jamie Stebbin, 88 Valley Road.
Okay.
Stebenne.
Explain your petition, please.
I'm just looking to put a storage shed on the back side of the property within the setbacks. I've called out 150 square feet as that being kind of the maximum I can go. The shed may be a little bit smaller. But basically just to store things like shovels, generator, patio furniture.
Are these for things that are for the property and not for the use of the property?
Yeah, I have a tenant on the upper floor, so they have some things, trash barrels, things of that nature that I'd like to get off of the, out and protected from the weather and also from security standpoint.
Right, because your primary use is as a contractor,
Yeah,
correct? And you
yeah,
understand that
JBS
you
construction.
cannot store things that are related
Right.
to your business on the
Yeah,
property.
we've had that conversation with
Okay.
Mr. King.
As long as you understand that, so you're asking for a shed for ancillary use for the
Yeah, I have a
tenant.
lot of things that are being stored in the building right
Right.
now, or they're under, we've made a couple creative spaces under the deck, but it's not really weather tight and not super secure, so I'd like to just get that stuff somewhere where it's protected.
Understood. Any questions for the applicant?
Is there a driveway that goes to the shed that you're proposing?
There's a parking lot behind the building.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. Let me see if anyone wants to talk.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the application?
Motion made and second. Discussion?
Relief, it's a 10 by 15 shed, 100 square feet, for the enjoyment and security of the property, so I'm going to vote in favor of the petition.
Same here. I think you asked the key question about business storage, and it's going to be used by the occupants of the property, not for business use.
Any other discussion?
And it's meeting the criteria listed in section C on the drawing here, no more than 15 feet tall and 5 feet off the lot lines. If that's true, I think it complies with the minimum or maximum dimensions, rather.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Petition of Arthur R. Bell Jr., owner, for a variance from section 603, 701, and 803G to construct a second floor above an existing garage with a left side setback of 8 feet where 30 is required, and a 12-foot by 21-foot deck resulting in lot coverage of 16% where 15% is allowed. Said real estate is located on 14 Spruce Ave and further identified as Lot 134 on Tax Assessor's Plat 125.
Mr. Bell? Raise your right hand. State, do you promise that you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Arthur Bell Jr., 14 Spruce Avenue, Middletown, Rhode Island.
Lift the mic up and just speak into it. Tell us about your project, Mr. Bell.
I just want to put an addition above the garage and a deck on the back to just increase and improve living quarters and living space. Nothing very elaborate.
And where's, okay, so the deck is just going to be on the side? Those,
It'll be in the back.
the back side, okay. Any questions for the applicant? And you're going to use this to create, it's not an apartment, it's just going to be living
No,
space
just
for your
living
family?
space, yeah.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. Nobody seems to have any questions from the deck?
So this is just the two-dimensional variances, right?
That's correct.
And then the percentage lot coverage for the total, so 1% increase.
Yeah, I think the lot coverage is because of the size of your initial lot, correct?
Right, correct.
Very small lot.
I was gonna say, yeah, 15% seems.
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't
very tiny
recall
lot.
seeing, yeah.
I think we're good. We're going to see if anyone wants to
So
talk.
it's a one-story house and the garage is attached and you're just going up above the attached garage?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against the petition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the application?
Second.
Discussion?
It's a small lot, to enjoy the property, I don't see a huge increase, and it is a small lot. The increase is minimal for enjoyment of the use of the property, so I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Yeah, it's also a lot in a neighborhood where the houses are positioned pretty well in the center of the property. The build-out seems reasonable.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, can I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Bell.
petition of 47 Valley Road Limited Liability Company owner Christopher Tonal, applicant for a special use permit from section 602 to allow a restaurant including service of alcoholic beverage in a limited business zone. Said real estate is located at 47 Valley Road and further identified as Lot 88 on Tax Assessor's Plat 107 Southeast.
Mr. Jackson?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. J. Russell Jackson, representing the applicant of the firm Miller Scott Holbrook and Jackson. Pleases the board, I'll give you a brief overview of the project, some of the travel of this case that brings us here this evening, and then I'll proceed with witnesses, and I'll try to go as briskly as I can with my witnesses. The applicant is proposing to locate an antique diner on a portion of the property located at 47 Valley Road. In addition to locating this antique dining car, the applicant proposes to construct a basement structure as well as a support building which will be built behind the diner to provide ADA-compliant access, an ADA-compliant restroom, as well as storage and services for other restaurant functions. The diner itself has a capacity of 26. There's also being proposed in conjunction with the diner a patio area to the south of the dining car, which will provide seating for an additional 55 patrons. The property is in the limited business zone. The restaurant use is a use that is permitted by right. We're here this evening because the applicant proposes to serve alcohol along with the restaurant use. The applicant is seeking to serve beer and wine with his dining services. Now, this project's been through, at this point, a pretty long municipal permitting process already. It's been vetted extensively by the town planning department, engineering department, and public works. The applicant originally filed his application for a special use permit in December of 2017. At that point, the application was referred to the planning department, and ultimately we found our way to the technical review committee. We met with the technical review committee multiple times throughout 2018, and we addressed a number of issues regarding stormwater management, site design, traffic circulation, and addressing these issues resulted in changes and amendments to the site plan. So there's been an evolution of the plan that's been proposed by the applicant. Eventually, we received a positive recommendation from the technical review committee, and we appeared before the planning board in June of 2018. During that meeting, at the request of the planning board, and based on the feedback they gave us during that hearing, we widened the proposed driveway, which at the time was at the southern portion of the lot. We were looking to utilize an existing curb cut, which is at the southernmost portion of the lot on Valley Road. So at their suggestion, we redesigned the plan to widen the driveway to make it two-way. And in addition, they wanted more information about the impact that traffic might have as a result of this use. So we engaged a traffic expert to do a traffic study. During July, we returned to the technical review committee based on the changes that we were making. We received another positive recommendation and went back to the planning board in August. We presented our traffic study. We presented the redesigned plan with a widened driveway as they requested. And despite those changes, much of which was suggested by the planning board, at the conclusion of that hearing, we did not receive a positive recommendation. We got a split vote. So after that, we decided that we needed to revisit the site plan. That's why you've noticed over the last few months that this petition's been continued a number of times. So during that time, we went back to the drawing board. We also sent notice out to all of the abutters in the neighborhood and invited them to come to a meeting. A few of the neighbors came to that meeting. Based on the conversations and feedback we got from those neighbors and based on the information that we gathered through the planning process, we came up with a redesigned site plan. The proposal that's in front of you this evening has the 24-foot two-way driveway in the center of the property located at Valley Road. I don't know, Jack, is it possible for you to scroll through? I know there's technical challenges.
Yeah, which one do you want?
The site plan, please. Yeah. Maybe it's the next sheet.
Next sheet.
Yeah. There it is. Thank you. So again, I know the board members have this in hard copy in front of you. I wanted to make sure it was up on the monitors. So you can see now that there's a 24-foot wide driveway in the center of the entirety of the 47 Valley Road property. And that provides access to the entire site with the diner restaurant use to the south and the existing Keller Williams office to the north. So the applicant, and we believe that this proposal is a vast improvement over what was previously reviewed and examined by the planning board back in August. And as a result of this plan, we've been able to make some additional improvements. One, by moving the driveway to the center of the entire parcel, we were able to move the patio area further away from the residential properties to the west. So now the patio is closer to Valley Road and to the south of the diner. In addition, by reorganizing the space and having the driveway in the center, we no longer require a waiver on the southern boundary to encroach into the 20-foot landscaping area. And furthermore, we no longer need dimensional variances to seek relief for having 2 rows of evergreens on a boundary to a residential property. So now we comply with the zoning code in terms of the dimensional requirements for having 2 rows of vegetative screening both on the southern and the western boundaries. So for those reasons, I think we've made vast improvements over time to the site plan, and we've done what we can to make sure that we're mitigating any effects that we have on our neighbors. So what's before you this evening meets parking requirements, provides double row of evergreens along, as discussed, along the south and west boundaries, requires no dimensional variances. It meets all stormwater management requirements under the code. In fact, you'll hear testimony from Lynn Smollett. It exceeds those requirements. At the request of the town, we've also agreed to install a drainage pipe to our stormwater management feature on the western boundary of the property. That drainage pipe will be located at the north end of our drainage feature adjacent to Chestnut Hill Road. That drainage pipe will be installed into the berm on the roadway along Chestnut so that it connects eventually with the town stormwater catch basin at the corner of Brookdale. Again, I'll let Lynn speak to it in detail, but that is, it exceeds the requirements under the code. The site itself manages stormwater sufficiently. At the request of the town engineer and director of public works, we took that additional step to make sure that we've met our burden to mitigate any effects that stormwater management may have on any of the butters. So with that said, the relief that we do seek from you this evening is pretty straightforward. We're here before you looking for a special use permit to serve beer and wine in conjunction with the restaurant use. Again, the restaurant use is allowed by right in this limited business zone. And we also still need some architectural and site development waivers. Specifically, one, we need a waiver to section 521.2C, which relates to sidings. Siding consists of non-traditional materials, including metal. I'll let Jay Grover will speak to that, the architect, but that relates to the fact that the antique diner itself has non-traditional materials because it's clad in metal. Architectural waiver based on 521.2D. Roof form does not comply with the requirement for hip or other sloped roof design. Again, Jay Grover will speak to this, but just in summary, the roof design is flat so that it doesn't draw attention away from the feature of this development, which is the antique diner. And then lastly, we need a site development waiver, 521.3D.3, a minimum 5-foot planting strip between the buildings and the parking lots / driveways is not provided on all sides of the building. That specifically relates to the fact that a portion around the building to the south, southwest, it will be surrounded by pavers because that's the portion that connects to the open patio area. So again, a special use permit and a couple of those architectural and site development waivers, that's what we're here before you this evening seeking relief for. We've got a few witnesses, and again, I'll be as direct and quick as I can. I'm going to have the applicant testify first, Mr. Christopher Tunna. Then we've got our engineer, which will discuss the site plan, drainage, Stormwater management, we've got our architect, Jake Grover, which will speak briefly about those architectural waivers. We've got a traffic expert, Paul Bannon, and we have our real estate expert, James Houle. So if I may, I'll proceed with the applicant, Mr. Tana.
Yes.
Evening, everyone.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Christopher Tana, 13 Goodwin Street, Newport.
Lift the mic up and make sure you speak into it, so it's,
Christopher Tana, 13 Goodwin Street, Newport.
okay.
Tunnah.
All right, Mr. Tano, you've indicated that you live at Goodwin Street in Newport, is that correct?
It is.
And you live there part of the year. You also live in New York, is that right?
Correct.
And you're currently engaged in the restaurant business in New York, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, why don't you give the board some background about your professional experience in the restaurant business?
So I've been in the industry, it's now my 24th year. I've been working in New York City in various capacities for half a dozen years as a wine buyer, wine director, beverage professional. For the last 15 years as a general manager in charge of properties that will do sales in ranges from 5 million to 10 million. I've opened half a dozen restaurants, all in the New York City area, largest one being overlooking Central Park, restaurant that did almost $11 million a year. For several years, I was a consultant working with chefs in the New York City area, and the two of the prominent chefs that I worked with, one opened, we opened a restaurant that is currently one of the hardest tickets to get into in New York, 3-star New York Times restaurant, and as well a 2-star New York Times restaurant in Soho. And then the last year and a half, I've been with a restaurant group as a director of operations in charge of multiple restaurants.
So you feel as though it's within your experience and capacity to handle opening and operating the proposed diner and open patio?
I would hope so. At this point, after this many years, you know, every restaurant has its own challenges. There's no restaurant that's easy, and often a smaller property is harder because you have less hands available. You have a smaller team. So I don't take this lightly. It's a restaurant just like any other that I've opened, and there's going to be challenges. But I think given my background and my experience, I would hope that I'd be prepared for this at this point. And I've been working on it since 2013, so 6 years in, I think I've got a good shot at it.
So just to be clear, you're not going to be an absentee owner, correct?
No. You know, I own a home in Newport. I bought it in 2010 and had always had that idea of transitioning up here, and this is really the move that I was always intending on making permanently to open a 12-month-a-year restaurant and live in Newport full-time.
Now, if you could, why don't you describe sort of the plan for the site and the concept to the board? So
the idea started originally with the diner, and I had always been an enthusiast of diners, and I love the history of it. The diner itself is problematic if I were just to move it alone, and it's a very small seating capacity, and so the idea kind of germinated from there of how do you make a restaurant that's going to have a considerable expense. It's close to $40,000 to move it from Pennsylvania. So a considerable setup expense, be a viable business. And that's where the key comes in with the outdoor seating. You would be able to offer a larger footprint, more seats, take advantage of the nice weather. And then on the flip side, in the off-season, it's nice because 2/3 of the seating capacity diminishes, you have a smaller team, and they're able to operate in the colder months with a lot less overhead. So,
now, you brought photographs of the diner itself,
yes.
Is that right?
Here's the 2 packets.
Do you have additional? Is that it?
I have additional. I also have a copy of the the program that I had at the town hall, if you'd like a copy of that.
Sure, we're going to put it,
I'm not quite sure, I don't
think
believe
it's
so.
I'm going to enter this as the pictures, the photograph package as Exhibit A.
Okay, all right.
So why don't you, while the board passes those around, why don't you just describe to the board the diner itself?
So the diner is not a train car. I think a lot of people make that assumption. This is a prefab diner, so it was purpose-built to be a diner. It's from 1927. In the country, there are less than 6 operational from the 20s. So it's exceedingly rare. This is the oldest diner in Pennsylvania. I believe it would be the oldest diner in Rhode Island if it were to move here. So it's prefab. The first picture is is as it sits in Pennsylvania. So this is current condition. So current condition, this is obviously the side view, and you can see the barrel roof with the kind of skylights on top and the original stained glass windows and sliding doors. The second picture is gives you an idea of scale a little bit. You know, these are tiny. They're 13 and a half wide by 36 long. So, you know, in dimensions, they really do resemble, you know, the size of a train car. You get 3 egresses, 1 on each end, and then the one in the middle. This is sort of just a different view to give you the other end. The next is an interior shot. This is the existing lavatory. We would keep this, but obviously we're adding on to the back building to allow for ADA. But it's an original lavatory. Incidentally, the lavatory was such a feature in 1927 that's why they labeled the outside ladies invited, because there actually was a proper lavatory. But it's, you know, original to the structure with the original payphone as well. And there's a shot of the ladies invited, and that's the central entrance.
All right, so now that you've given them a sense of the diner, why don't you describe what do you plan in terms of a concept for menu and food service?
So the property is really, I look at it as 2 almost distinct restaurants. The diner itself, in the summer months, would be a soda fountain, ice cream, homemade pies, more of a dessert and refreshment type of place. The outdoor dining would have a central part of it is the wood-burning grill, 4 by 8 foot grill. Everything's cooked outside, so you're really at a cookout for the most part. And in the winter months, we would stop cooking outside, and we would utilize the existing indoor equipment to grill inside the diner for the smaller amount of guests. In terms of menu, New England classics, clam bake, steaks, hot dogs, hamburgers, baked beans, fresh salads, grilled veggies, really summertime food, obviously coming off the grill. And, you know, for me, being in this business, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just have to do it well. And all of the restaurants that I've been associated with, you know, whether it's Gramercy Tavern or Kraft or any of those, the food is of the highest quality possible, and the service is educated and responsible and engaging, and that's how you succeed. And so that's the concept. It's very simple. Provide great food in a really nice setting.
So, as part of this, you're requesting to serve beer and wine. Why the need for alcohol, and why just the beer and wine?
I think there's multiple reasons. On a hot day, people like to have a beer with their meal. I think it's as simple as that. The alcohol is meant to enhance the experience, to offer an amenity that I think a lot of people would want. It's not an alcohol-first type of establishment. This is really not designed to be a place where people drop in and drink. the alcohol is meant to go with the food. And it's not going to be the focus of the restaurant, and I really say restaurant, it's not a bar. The focus of the restaurant is to offer a curated selection of high-quality beer and wine. It's not meant to be exhaustive. It's not going to be 100 taps. It's not, again, it's not a bar. So beyond just the kind of immediate, people like to have a beer with their meal, I think it's also, in terms of business as well, it's an important revenue center. There's a lot of expenses I had mentioned before that is going into this project to make it, to bring it to Rhode Island, and to be serving food only. I don't know if it would necessarily be worth the expense. It would certainly change the outlook on the bottom line and on the prospect of the project in general.
So you've given some background, obviously, about your experience in the restaurant business. If you could just briefly also describe what you anticipate in terms of managing and running an operation which serves alcohol.
Sure. So alcohol service, one, there's already laws in place that are mandating training. So the team, the management would have serve safe training. It's Rhode Island law. But beyond that, I think there's a lot of policies and procedures that you can put in place that ensure that you've got responsible alcohol service, and that just takes good management. There are plenty of signs, I think, that even as youngsters we kind of can pick up on when someone's getting a little inebriated. But these days it's even easier for us to track. Everything's done on computer. You can see what someone's consumed. At the first signs of someone showing ill effects of alcohol, management should be involved, and they should be able to politely and discreetly tell that person maybe it's time for a little coffee.
So in addition to your experience regarding the service of alcohol, clearly you want to be regulated by the town, you want to be permitted by the town, and you feel as though this type of operation would allow you additional control as opposed to some type of BOB potential operation, correct?
I do. I think that as an operator, there's nothing more scary to me than not having the control of what someone's bringing. And if they're bringing their own alcohol, that to me is exceedingly scary. I still have my own liability. The business has liability. Not to mention that, the whole goal is to offer a beverage that's enhancing experience. I don't think someone bringing in vodka and whiskey is enhancing the experience. That's just drinking. And so as an operator, I'm frankly terrified of that I wouldn't, and I don't know how you'd shut someone off. You say you've had enough to drink when they've got a cooler full of beer.
So obviously that's not part of what you anticipate as an operation. That's why you're asking for the beer and wine license. So why don't you just tell the board what your anticipated hours of operation are?
I just want to make sure we've had a couple of revisions on hours, so I just want to make sure that I'm not misstating. Okay. Sunday, I'm planning on opening from noon until 9. Monday from 11 a.m. to 9. Tuesday, basically Monday through Thursday, 11 to 9. Friday, 11 to 10, and Saturday, noon to 10.
Any plans to have live music or entertainment out on the patio?
I have no plans for live music.
Why don't you, if you could, also describe what steps you anticipate taking to further mitigate the impact of the diner and the patio to your abutters?
Sure. So in addition to the things that Russ has already mentioned, moving the patio, one thing that Russ didn't mention, the grill actually was on the opposite side. It was on the south side of that patio. It's moved all the way up to the north side, as close to the road as we could get it. So that changed from one of the earlier plans to now. But additionally, to screen the outdoor dining area, we're going to construct some fencing, lattice, put some vegetation on that, so obviously it's aesthetically very pleasing to the guests, but also you really wouldn't be able to see that from, you'd you'd see green, ivy covered structures, fencing lattice. So we're really trying to screen off the dining area, and also not just have it be a visual buffer, but also a sound buffer.
Okay, so obviously this is in addition to the vegetative buffers and screening that's going to be installed and planted along the boundary lines as well.
Correct.
Now, what steps do you anticipate taking to address concerns that your neighbors have expressed regarding potential pests or rodents or anything like that?
Well, when discussing this with Russ a week or two ago, I had to I chuckled a little bit. In New York, there's one thing that we know about, and it's rats and cockroaches. So I have quite a bit of experience with dealing with pest control, because it is something that's a pervasive problem in New York. We have to maintain an exceptional amount of cleanliness. There are very strict regulations on health code in terms of pest control. So I have 15 years of experience in pest control. My feeling is that a good operator runs a clean ship, and I made the comment to Russ that there's no laws that say you can't get into your dumpster and wash it and clean it. Additionally, I think it's cheaper, and a lot of restaurants would opt for a once-a-week pickup. You can get smaller dumpsters that are picked up more frequently, and you also can do your sorting, and you make sure that your dry garbage, your disposables are in one, and you're really taking and getting your wet garbage picked up frequently. If you're managing that, you're degreasing your sidewalks, you're making sure that you're disposing of things properly, you shouldn't have an issue with pests.
Another concern that was expressed had to do with lighting on the site. So the town ordinance requires that you comply with what's referred to as the dark skies ordinance, correct?
Correct.
And you're ready and willing to comply with those requirements, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so specifically, you're not going to install any floodlights?
No. The whole idea for the patio is obviously to have a ambient lighting so guests can see their food, but it really is supposed to be mood lighting. It's supposed to be something that is pleasant and warm. No? Okay.
But specifically, any lighting location, fixture will be reviewed with the building official
Absolutely.
Before installed to make sure it complies with town ordinance.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the other concerns had to do with traffic and circulation. Specifically, there's a concern about traffic exiting onto Chestnut Hill Road, which leads into a residential area. So what type of steps are going to be undertaken to try to mitigate that impact to abutters?
So in the plan, we've moved the delivery zone is on the opposite side, and it's really accessible through that double driveway. So deliveries would be in the morning, 8 a.m.-ish, 7 to 9, prior to opening. We wouldn't be getting afternoon deliveries. The Chestnut exit would be blocked off. We've actually gotten approval from our...
Reach an agreement with the neighbor?
With the neighbor.
Keller Williams.
At Keller Williams, that post his closing of the realty business, that we would be able to construct a non-permanent barrier nightly to ensure that guests are not leaving the Chestnut side. We've also gotten an agreement that we're able to post a sign, obviously not a legal sign by the town, but a sign that kind of says no left turn, or avoid left turn onto Chestnut. So we really are trying to put the signage in place, the barriers in place, to make sure that there is less impact on the residential neighborhood.
So if there's any other, is there anything we haven't covered in terms of circulation, traffic, and the operation of the business that you wanted to make sure that the board was aware of in terms of what you've done to address concerns of the neighbors?
No, I think, and it's already been mentioned, I am a homeowner on the island. I understand that there would be concerns about impact, and I'm very empathetic to that. Between the 5 or 6 revisions to the plan that have happened over the last year and a half, as well, it was my idea to do the town hall. And I really wanted to meet with the neighbors to make sure that I was hearing them. And then one thing that wasn't mentioned, before I started this project 2 years ago, I walked the neighborhood. And I had an information packet, and I rang doorbells, I knocked on doors, I met with several of the neighbors. And the majority of the neighbors said, that sounds cool, that sounds great. So at the time, even before I started this, I was really interested in hearing what the neighbors had to say. The restaurants that I've worked for have all been boosters of their neighborhood. Danny Meyer was my first restaurant in New York. I was at Gramercy Tavern. And his whole ethos is about improving, not just being a good businessman, but improving the neighborhood, giving back to the neighborhood, employing people from the neighborhood, and being a part of the neighborhood. And so that's how I started this process, and I'm still doing that. Certainly, as of the last town hall meeting, it's been an open door to us to make sure that we're hearing, and we've been trying to listen.
If the board has any questions?
Mr. Jackson, I have a request from one of my members to take a short break.
Sure.
So I hate to do that, but
If you have any questions of Mr. Tunna before we take that break, and then when we resume, I'll move on to the next witness.
does anyone have any questions for Mr.
I just
Tunna?
want to know where is the dumpster? Where is the dumpster?
So, yeah, it's on the plan. If you see the loading zone, it's next to the loading zone, down at the bottom.
Mr. Jackson, I think we have to take a break.
Sure, thank you.
If you can come back up
Of
after
course,
the break.
yeah.
We're going to take a short 5-minute break.